In the vast expanse of Iosha National Park, Namibia, life thrived under the burning African sun. The golden plains stretched endlessly, dotted with acacia trees and watering holes that served as the lifeblood for countless species. Among the inhabitants of this unforgiving yet beautiful land were two young lion brothers, later to be known as the Taya brothers. At this stage, however, they were just cubs, oblivious to the extraordinary path that lay ahead. Their days were filled with play, their sharp claws dulled by wrestling with each other and pouncing on their mother's tail. They practiced the vital skills they would need to survive, unaware that this childhood innocence would not last long. Their mother, ever vigilant, watched over them, guiding their movements and teaching them the art of patience during the hunt. Life was not easy, but it was predictable as long as they stayed close to the pride and their mother. They were safe. Autosha was a realm ruled by nature's laws, and strength dictated survival. The lion pride to which the Taya brothers belonged was one of several in the area, each carving out its own territory. Conflicts between prides were common, but for the young brothers, these battles seemed distant, like distant thunderstorms rumbling across the plains. Unbeknownst to them, the tranquility of this world was on the verge of shattering. Forces beyond their understanding were already in motion, forces that would separate them from the comfort of their pride and thrust them into a brutal and unfamiliar environment. For now, the brothers remained blissfully unaware, basking in the simple pleasures of their youth under the watchful eyes of their elders. The year was 1995, and the ordinary life the Taya brothers had known was about to be upended. Human intervention, of force as unpredictable as the predators that roam Autosha, had arrived. Park rangers and conservationists tasked with maintaining balance and protecting dwindling populations had set their sights on relocating lions to a distant reserve. Among those chosen for this relocation were the Beisha brothers and an older, battle-scarred male known as Scarface. Captured and sedated, the brothers felt the cold touch of steel as they were caged for transport. The familiar sense of Osa's grasslands faded, replaced by the mechanical hum of vehicles and the sterile air of confinement. When they awoke, the world outside their enclosure was foreign. The brothers, still young but no longer cubs, found themselves in the heart of Mko Reserve, a rugged landscape that held none of the comforts of home. Mko was untamed and brimming with dangers. Unlike Iosha, the reserve's lion population was sparse, but the few dominant males who controlled the land were fierce and unwelcoming. The Taya brothers, accompanied by Scarface, were released into a large enclosure where they would acclimate before being set free into the reserve. The brothers prowled the perimeter of their enclosure, their senses heightened by the unknown. The air carried new smells, buffalo, wildebeest, and the distant calls of rival lions. The call to adventure had been sounded, though the brothers could not yet comprehend its full weight. Hello guys, if you like our stories and have subscribed yet, support our work and subscribe to the channel to help us. On November 30th, 1995, the first meal was dropped inside their enclosure. It would be their final moment of peace before the reserve opened its gates to them. In just over a month, the brothers would step into Mwe as nomads, unclaimed and unwelcome, but destined for greatness. The gates of the enclosure opened on January 9th, 1996, but the Taya brothers hesitated. The vast wilderness of Mko stretched before them, unfamiliar and unforgiving. Unlike Autosha, there was no pride to greet them, no protective mother by their side. They were alone save for each other, and the weight of that isolation settled heavily upon them. Instinct urged them forward, yet fear held them back. The brothers remained near the perimeter for days, unwilling to venture deep into the reserve. Every rustle in the brush and distant draw was a reminder of the dangers that lurked beyond the safety of the enclosure. Scarface, the older male, who had been transported with them, had already disappeared into the wilderness, leaving the young lions to fend for themselves when they finally crossed the threshold and entered the unknown. Their first encounter with the Ophir pride was swift and brutal. The dominant males of the pride, larger and more experienced, chased the Taya brothers relentlessly, driving them far from the prime hunting grounds. Exhausted and humiliated, the brothers retreated to the outskirts of the reserve. Doubt crept in. Were they strong enough to survive in Medi? The scars from that first confrontation were not just physical but etched deeply into their minds. They skirted the edges of the territory, scavenging and avoiding conflict as uncertainty clouded their future. The reserve, it seemed, had little room for inexperienced lions. In the weeks following their defeat at the hands of the Ophir pride, the Beisha brothers roamed the outskirts of living in the shadows. Hunger became their constant companion, and survival meant scavenging scraps left behind by larger predators. Despite their setbacks, the brothers were not entirely without guidance. Scarface, though distant and often elusive, reappeared from time to time. The older lion was a force to be reckoned with, his dark mane streaked with gray, his body marked by the scars of countless battles. Scarface had once ruled over a pride, and his movements reflected the confidence of a lion accustomed to dominance. The Taya brothers observed him closely, studying his every action. Scarface did not offer protection, but his presence became an unspoken lesson. He demonstrated how to stalk prey undetected and how to avoid unnecessary confrontations when other lions crossed his path. Scarface stood his ground with unwavering resolve, teaching the brothers that confidence often dictated the outcome of encounters. In June of 1996, Scarface crossed paths with the Ba brothers once more. This time the dynamic had shifted, though the older males still carried the advantage. The Beisha brothers no longer fled at the first sign of danger. They roared in defiance, signaling that their days of retreat were nearing an end. The brothers began to internalize these lessons. Scarface was not their ally, but he was a living embodiment of what they could become: powerful, respected, and unchallenged. Slowly, the Taya brothers shed the last remnants of their fear, stepping into the role of young but determined contenders for dominance. By October 1996, the Beisha brothers were no longer cubs clinging to the edges of Mku. Their muscles had filled out, and their once scrappy appearance gave way to the sleek, powerful frames of maturing lions. The lessons learned from Scarface and the brutal encounters with the Ophir pride had hardened them. Now the time had come to test their strength. The brothers moved south toward the heart of the reserve territory they had once been chased from. This time, they did not skulk in the shadows. They walked boldly, their deep roars echoing across the plains, announcing their return. The land they approached was occupied by the same dominant males of the Ophir pride who had humiliated them months before. But the Beisha brothers were no longer the naive lions of their past. At dusk, under the fading light, the brothers struck. The Ophir males were caught off guard, their defenses lowered by the illusion of stability. The Beisha brothers attacked with precision and ferocity, leveraging their bond to overwhelm one male at a time. By dawn, the dominant males had been driven out, retreating with wounds and humiliation. For the first time, the Taya brothers tasted victory. The southern reaches of Med, once forbidden, were now theirs. The balance of power had shifted. Though their hold on the territory was fragile, it marked their official entrance into the hierarchy of the reserve. Crossing this threshold, the brothers left behind the insecurity of youth. They had faced their greatest fear and emerged stronger. The reserve was beginning to take notice. Two new contenders had claimed their place, and the reign of the Beisha brothers had begun. With the southern territory under their control, the Taya brothers faced the relentless trials that came with newfound dominance. Was unforgiving, and victory over the Ophir pride was only the beginning. Holding on to their territory would prove more challenging than taking it in the months following their triumph. Rival males began to test the brothers. Lone nomads and coalitions skirted the edges of their domain, drawn by the scent of lionesses and the promise of easy prey. Each day brought the possibility of a new battle. The Beisha brothers met these challenges heated, but they quickly learned that brute strength alone would not secure their reign. Strategy and unity became their greatest weapons. Buffalo herds, the most dangerous prey, and Ku offered both risk and reward. The brothers began targeting them, learning to isolate weaker individuals from the herd. The victories brought not just sustenance but recognition. Lions began to take notice of the Taya brothers, drawn by their growing reputation as successful hunters and protectors. However, not all encounters favored the brothers. In December 1996, they crossed paths with Luan, a massive, one-eyed lion, and one of the last remnants of the Ophir pride. Luan was a seasoned fighter, and his presence loomed like a shadow over their newly claimed territory. When the inevitable clash came, Luan fought with savage precision. The Ba brothers were driven back, and one suffered severe injuries in the aftermath. The bond between the brothers was tested for the first time. One was forced to leave the other behind, fleeing to save himself. The injured Ba was later found and taken to an enclosure for treatment. Separated from his brother for several weeks, it was a low point in their ascent. The reserve had shown its teeth, and for a moment it seemed the brothers' reign might crumble before it had truly begun. But the injured brother healed, and when the two were reunited, their bond was stronger than ever. 7 months later, in mid-1997, the Beisha brothers sought out Lone. The lionesses of the area now followed the Beisha brothers, and the brothers knew they could not allow the specter of Lone to threaten their growing pride. They found him near a watering hole, accompanied by 2 females. The ensuing battle was fierce, but this time the Beisha brothers fought not out of desperation, but with the confidence of lions who had survived their worst trials. Luan was forced to retreat, his dominance broken by driving out when the Taya brothers solidified their place as the uncontested rulers of southern Med. The lionesses accepted them fully, and for the first time the brothers led a pride of their own. Their reputation spread across the reserve. Guides, tourists, and conservationists began to notice the imposing size and ferocity of the brothers. They were no longer outsiders. Medi belonged to them, and any rival lion that crossed into their territory risked facing the full wrath of the Beisha brothers. By late 1997, the Beisha brothers had grown into powerful rulers of their territory. Their once uncertain steps had transformed into confident strides that echoed across the lionesses. Under their protection thrived, and cubs sired by the brothers began to populate the southern plain. The Taya name carried weight, a symbol of dominance and resilience, yet even at the height of their power, danger still lurked in the shadows. One-eyed Wen had not disappeared, though driven out of their lands he remained a persistent threat, circling the edges of the Taya brothers' domain, waiting for an opportunity to strike. His mere presence haunted them, a reminder that no reign was absolute. In December 1997, Lubin returned. This time alone, the Taya brothers found him near the western boundary of their territory. Gaunt but determined, Lone's strength had diminished, but his ferocity had not. He launched a sudden attack, focusing his rage on the brother he had wounded a year earlier. The ambush was brutal and swift. The younger Taya brother sustained deep gashes before managing to escape. Bloodied and weak, he collapsed by a watering hole, breathing heavily as his brother circled Protectively for the second time, the Taya brothers faced the grim reality of mortality, knowing the risk of losing his brother and half their strength, the dominant Beisha led his wounded sibling to the outskirts of their territory days, passed in isolation as the injured lion recovered, and during this time the dominant brother patrolled alone. This moment marked a turning point, though. Victorious, the Beisha brothers had narrowly escaped death. The reserve was a harsh teacher, and they realized that even the greatest lions were vulnerable. When the younger brother finally healed, the Taya brothers emerged from this trial more cautious, but no less fierce. They had survived Lone's last strike. The specter of the one-eyed lion faded, but the scars he left, both physical and emotional, remained etched in their story, preparing them for the challenges still to come. By mid-1998, the Ba brothers had become legends within Ku. Their roars commanded respect, their presence instilled fear, and no rival dared openly challenge their dominance. The southern territory of the reserve flourished under their rule, but peace in the wild is fleeting. The brothers' greatest trial still lay ahead. The dry season had gripped the land, and prey grew scarce. Buffalo herds, usually abundant, migrated toward distant watering holes, forcing the brothers to expand their hunting grounds. As they ventured deeper into the reserve, they encountered another coalition of younger, ambitious males who had begun encroaching on the outskirts of their land. These nomads were lean but desperate, two traits that made them dangerous. The Beisha brothers confronted the intruders at dusk. The encounter escalated quickly, with the two sides locking into a ferocious battle beneath the fading light. Though the Beisha brothers held the advantage of experience and size, the nomads fought with reckless abandon, seeking to prove themselves. The fight ed into the night, and for the first time in years, the Beisha brothers faced the very real possibility of defeat. The dominant Beisha, larger and more aggressive, managed to drive one nomad away, while the younger brother grappled with the second. Blood soaked their golden fur as claws and teeth tore into flesh. As dawn broke, the nomads retreated, leaving the Beisha brothers battered but victorious. However, the younger Beisha had sustained deep wounds along his side, though not fatal. The injuries left him weakened. In the days that followed, the brothers were forced to hunt smaller prey, avoiding unnecessary conflict. As the wounded brother recovered, this ordeal marked the closest the brothers had come to losing everything. It served as a reminder that no matter how powerful they were, there was always a new generation waiting to challenge their reign. Despite the hardships, the Taya brothers emerged stronger. The nomads never returned, and their territory remained intact. The lionesses, having witnessed the ferocity with which the brothers defended the pride, grew even more loyal. The Beisha brothers' legacy was reinforced not by their invincibility, but by their resilience, the ability to endure, to survive, and to rise again after each trial. By the end of 1998, the Beisha brothers stood unchallenged, but the scars from this ordeal were a permanent reminder of the fine line between dominance and downfall in the unforgiving wilds of Med. With their territory secured and rivals driven out, the Beisha brothers entered a golden era of their reign. The pride beneath their protection grew steadily, with new cubs seed by the brothers strengthening their legacy. By the early 2000s, the brothers had become icons within Ku, symbols of resilience and dominance. Their physical transformation was just as remarkable as their conquests. The Ba brothers grew to enormous sizes, their ms dark and thick, framing their faces like crowns. Their presence at watering holes drew the attention of guides and visitors who marveled at their size and power. In 2005, Carmen, a seasoned wildlife guide from Size Sands, encountered the Beisha brothers for the first time. Even after years of tracking lions across reserves, she found herself in awe. Standing before her were the largest lions she had ever seen. One of the brothers later weighed during a health check tipped the scales at 248 kilograms. This weight recorded with certainty set him apart from any other lion documented. In the region, the Beisha brothers' reward was not just territorial dominance but the recognition of their unparalleled size and strength. They had grown from vulnerable nomads into legends of Med, though time would inevitably begin to wear on them. For now, the Ba brothers basked in the glory of their rule. The reserve belonged to them, and their story had become one whispered with reverence by those who witnessed their rise. By 2007, the Beisha brothers' reign over Mko had stretched over a decade. Time, however, does not spare even the mightiest of kings. The brothers, once invincible in their prime, began to show the subtle but inevitable signs of aging. Their once dark, imposing MS grew stray with gray, and the scars of past battles became more pronounced across their muscular frames. Despite their age, the Taya brothers continued to patrol their territory, but their movements lacked the vigor of their youth. The lionesses still followed them, but younger male coalitions began to linger at the edges of their domain. Sensing the slow shift in power in late 2008, a buffalo hunt proved to be the turning point. The Beisha brothers, driven by hunger, targeted a large bull near the northern stretch of their territory. The buffalo, fierce and unrelenting, fought back with everything it had. During the struggle, one of the brothers was struck by the buffalo's horn, suffering critical injuries. The wounded brother staggered away from the fight, collapsing near the edge of a watering hole as his siblings stood guard for days. The surviving Beishas stayed close, but the injuries were too severe. In December 2008, the last of the BTI of brothers took his final breath, marking the end of an era. The road back had become a slow descent, but the legacy of the Beisha brothers was sealed. They had ruled longer than most and left behind a pride that carried their lineage forward. Though the last of the Beisha brothers had fallen, their legacy did not fade. With them, the story of their reign, marked by relentless perseverance, dominance, and unmatched size, echoed across Medway long after their deaths. Rangers, guides, and visitors continued to speak of the Beisha brothers as symbols of the untamed power that lions represent. Their offspring, scattered throughout the reserve, carried the unmistakable traits of their lineage. Young males with thick dark manes and imposing frames roamed reminders of the brothers' genetic imprint. Some of these descendants formed coalitions of their own, claiming new territories and continuing the cycle of dominance that the Beisha brothers had established. For many, the Taya brothers transcended the realm of ordinary lions. They became legends, often mentioned in the same breath as other iconic lions of Africa. Their weight, particularly the 248 kilograms recorded for the larger brother, stood as a testament to their remarkable physical presence. Unlike exaggerated stories of mythical lions whose weights were disputed, the Beisha brothers' size was a fact documented by those who had seen them firsthand. In the years following their deaths, the reserve saw many powerful lions rise and fall, but few could match the Ba brothers' combination of physicality, longevity, and dominance. The Beisha brothers' story became a source of inspiration, a reminder that resilience, unity, and unwavering strength can carve a lasting mark on even the harshest landscapes. They had not just survived Mko, they had shaped it, leaving behind a legacy that would outlive them for generations. Asians, the reign of the Beisha brothers had ended, but their story was far from over. Legends of the wild do not vanish with death. They linger, etched into the land, whispered by the winds that sweep across the plains, and immortalized in the memories of those who witnessed their rise and fall. The Beisha brothers left more than a physical legacy. They left behind a lesson that echoed far beyond the borders of Medi. In the unforgiving wilderness, survival is often dictated by brute strength and ferocity, but the Beisha brothers' journey revealed something deeper there. Power lay not just in their size, but in their bond, the unbreakable connection between two lions who faced the world. Together alone, they might have been just another pair of young males wandering the reserve in search of scraps. Together, they became giants, ruling for over a decade in a landscape where dominance is fleeting. It was their unity that allowed them to overcome the air pride, their resilience that carried them through battles with one-eyed Wen, and their unwavering trust in one another that enabled them to fend off ambitious coalitions. In their victories and even in their defeats, the brothers demonstrated that strength alone is not enough to endure the trials of the wild. Adaptability, loyalty, and persistence proved to be just as vital as guides and conservationists recounted their encounters with the Beisha brothers. Their story became one of inspiration and awe. The weight of 248 kilograms recorded for one of the brothers stood as a testament to their unmatched physical presence, but it was the intangibles, their spirit, their legacy that carried more weight even now. Lions that roam Ku are said to resemble the Beisha brothers, as if their descendants still carry echoes of that greatness. Young males with dark full mans and broad shoulders command the same respect, evoking memories of the brothers who once ruled the reserve. The Beisha bloodline continues scattered across them, serving as a living reminder that the brothers' reign in many ways never truly ended. But the true elixir the Ba brothers returned with was not just their genetic legacy, it was the reminder that every creature, no matter how powerful, faces its trials, falls, and rises again. The wild is a place of relentless cycles where even kings must have eventually yield to time. Yet the story of those who rise above adversity, who defy the odds and reshape their world, becomes something eternal for those who walk the plains of Medi today. The Beisha brothers are more than a memory, they are a symbol of what is possible when strength is matched by unity and resilience. Their story serves as a lesson to all, reminding us that even in the harshest of environments, greatness is born from perseverance, courage, and the bonds we share with those who stand beside us in the grand narrative of the wild. The Beisha brothers carved their place not as fleeting rulers, but as eternal legends, leaving behind a tale that will be told as long as lions walk the earth. Hello guys, if you like our stories and haven't subscribed yet, support our work and subscribe to the channel to help us